clarity comes in when you really experiment. You can't say that, hey, I found purpose unless until you've failed at B or failed at A and failed at C. So I had my share of failures and I continue to have them. And that gives me a kick because failure is a blessing in disguise. So talking about clarity. So clarity is that I believe, and Joseph Campbell, an author and philosopher, has very well said about hero's journey, that unless until you don't start an idea, you would not know. So that's what I was doing alongside my job, where people would doubt, oh, there's so many trainers, there's so many coaches. Yeah, there will always be so many things, but I need to follow that. You know what, I'm tolerating my neighbor, I'm tolerating my husband, I'm tolerating my wife, I'm tolerating my boss, I'm tolerating my customer. But really, Rakesh, I think we are tolerating our own beliefs that are not helping us. We are tolerating our own frustrations. We are tolerating our own anger.
Commit to yourself. Go to your balcony. 3 C's of growth. How to handle rejection or no. Wow, what a journey. This is Nancy Katyal, CEO and founder of The Perfect You. From a front desk executive in a private bank to education to leading a learning center and then jumping into entrepreneur journey and then making a mark in training and coaching. This is one heck of a journey of self-discovery, vulnerability, and moving on. Nancy is a leadership consultant, published author, executive presence coach, and public speaker. This episode is like an encyclopedia of career transformation, listening to your own voice and then committing to yourself. This is one of the best episodes of Let's Talk Clarity. So please take notes and implement some of the important learnings into your career, life, and relationship. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the episode. Hello everyone, this is Rakesh, your coach, author, speaker, and career transformation expert. Welcome to my podcast, Let's Talk Clarity. Let's Talk Clarity, in which we discuss about career transformation, productivity, and life fulfillment. Let's start the episode and talk clarity. Thank you, Nancy, for being on the show. And let's begin this conversation with the understanding that how you got the clarity that which career you have to choose and how you got the clarity means whenever we start, first we do some corporate job, then entrepreneurship, then coaching. And so how you got your clarity in your career?
Thanks for asking that. So for that, I'll take you back to 2003. So 2003, roughly March, and I started my job. So I was working with ICICI Prudential as a front desk executive. So that's my first job. And I always had this knack of contributing to others, and people would talk to me about their secrets, about what they will not tell the manager. Even senior leaders would come and talk to me. And I started seeing a pattern. And then I got another offer from Citibank, City Financial that time. I took the plunge. And there also I realized that in a job, what happens is that my job was a personal loan officer. I can't start training people and start contributing, right? Because my job roles and responsibilities were not allowing me to do that. But there was some kida or some nudge in me would say, no, contribute. And then my job role will stop me to say, Nancy, do your job. And then I got married. I took a break and I thought I want to contribute to my marriage. And then my husband said after a year that, Nancy, let's move. I said, yeah, let's move. And we moved to Hyderabad. We were enjoying our life and my daughter was growing up. And after a while, maybe 2 years down the line, guess what he said? He said, let's move. I said, yeah. Let's move. And we came back to Gurgaon again. There I realized that I have to start doing something. And my husband also said that if you have that in you, that you want to contribute to others, so why don't you go ahead and do something that you love? So I applied in Amity Group and I got through. So now I was the face of the organization. I used to represent the organization and Amity was a great brand. And I got promoted. And guess what my husband said, Rakesh?
Let's move.
Yes, let's move. And I said, yes, let's move. And we came to Mumbai. So I had to start from scratch, right? Because I had shifted from corporate to education industry. So I joined Akanksha Foundation. So I said, I need to learn ground reality. So again, I started teaching there. And it was almost 1.5 years. And I thought I need to get back into lead role. So I shifted to an organization where I was the center head and I was leading a group of 30 to 30 odd women. And there also, there was always this inclination of contributing. People would come to me, ask feedback. And though I was the youngest there were people who had 30 years plus experience than me, right? And there also, I got promoted. And guess what my husband said? He said, let's move. I said, enough. I mean, and we shifted to Pune, where I am currently.
Okay.
Roughly more than a decade now we are here. And after 3 years, then of course, and I forgot to tell you that when I was in Mumbai, I started doing my entrepreneurship on weekends. So I was exploring that because I didn't want to take a direct plunge and directly fail. So I wanted to be taking calculative risk. So I started training weekends so that I build a brand. And by the time it was very clear that I want to go ahead and start my own business. And so I was building my brand side by side.
Which brand?
So the brand was the Perfect You.
Perfect.
And I talk about the Perfect You because it can be misunderstood because people say, no, we don't have to strive for perfection. And I believe we are perfect in our imperfections. That's why the Perfect You. And then in Pune, we were well settled. And here I started doing my course and my certification, international certification. And then I realized that, yes, I'm ready to take the plunge of entrepreneurship. And my husband said, I'm getting an opportunity. I said, you know what? You move. I am not going to move. And I said, because what happens is that I was so conditioned that to be a faithful wife, to be a dedicated wife, I just need to compromise on what I have to do for my own self. And you can be a dedicated wife and contribute to your husband alongside living your own passion. And that was my conditioning.
Okay.
Right? And then I got a sense that, Nancy, hey, this mindset is not helping you because you are contributing and still having that remorse that, hey, I'm doing it at the cost of my own happiness. I said, no, my husband has not asked me. And when I asked him, he said, yeah, I mean, you didn't ask me. I asked you. You were happy enough to say, yeah, let's move. You never questioned it. So when I questioned, he said, no, I can't go without you to a foreign country. So let's work here. So we are here in Pune very much. I'm doing my business and my husband is doing his job and we are not moving. So talking about clarity. So clarity is that I believe, and Joseph Campbell, an author and philosopher, has very well said about hero's journey, that until you don't start an idea, you would not know. So that's what I was doing alongside my job, where people would doubt, oh, there's so many trainers, there's so many coaches. Yeah, there will always be so many things, but I need to follow that. And of course, there were failures, there was criticism, and you follow that journey. There was a period where you go in your own shell. But I knew that I had to get up and gather myself. And that's where the other side, as Joseph Campbell says, is the light. And I saw the light, and it's a fruitful journey. If I talk about my total experience, is 20 plus years, but entrepreneurship journey is roughly 2012 I started. So yeah, it's been a fruitful journey throughout, and clarity comes in when you really experiment. You can't say that, hey, I found purpose unless until you've failed at B or failed at A and failed at C. So I had my share of failures and I continue to have them, and that gives me a kick because failure is a blessing in disguise.
Yes. Wow. Oh, such an amazing journey. And I really like the way, means you slowly progressed and one by one, the layers, and you got the clarity one by one, means one step at a time. So let's talk about the transition phase, means when you shifted from your job to entrepreneurship. So the transformation is always messy and chaotic. So how was that experience and how you handled that?
एक ना मेरा फेवरेट शेर है, I know I'm saying it in Hindi, which says ले दे के अपने पास फकत एक नजर ही तो है, क्यों देखे जिंदगी को किसी और की नजर से हम.
Oh wow, such an amazing.
I has said it. So I think transition happens when I stop blaming the environment. I realize that most of us say that, you know what, I'm tolerating my neighbor, I'm tolerating my husband, I'm tolerating my wife, I'm tolerating my boss, I'm tolerating my customer. But really, Rakesh, I think we are tolerating our own beliefs that are not helping us. We are tolerating our own frustrations. We are tolerating our own anger. And when I realized that in business, entrepreneurship, there's this saying that you are your own boss. I think these kind of patterns and mindsets have to be broken, because in entrepreneurship also your customer is your boss. So I think these are the beliefs that society tells you, oh, let's let everybody do entrepreneurship. Not everybody will have the skill set to be an entrepreneur, right? So I think that's where I said that, Nancy, you know what? And I like to talk to myself through a third person
Okay.
perspective. And there's this Harvard business professor who says going to the balcony. There is this concept that he came up with.
Okay.
So going to the balcony is that, let's say I'm sitting here in front of you, Rakesh, and when I'm talking to myself, I'm not objective to really think from stepping out of myself. You can literally take your soul out, but I mean, going to balcony is stepping outside of yourself and looking at yourself from a third person perspective. For instance, if Rakesh is my friend and if he's struggling with something, I'll tell Rakesh, hey, you know what, why don't you look at this? I'll give him objective opinion. And when we are going through the transition, most of us, and I'm not saying all, most of us don't have that capability to step out of ourselves and give that friendly buddy advice to our own self. So what I did was, I said, Nancy, let's go to the balcony. Look at it from the outside perspective, like a third person perspective. And I started talking to myself as I'm my own friend. I said, hey, Nancy, buddy, you know what is important to you? And I started answering to my outside balcony person.
Okay.
And I think that's what is required in transition, that, most of us are fearful of facing ourselves. And we feel that, oh, the world is very harsh. And Rakesh, I know that, when we sit with ourselves, and through that transition period, I was so harsh to myself, the things that I said to myself. And if somebody else would hear it, they'll be like, hey, listen, you are more harsh. You are harsher rather.
Yes.
So I think transition is more about going in and saying that, hey, wake up, enough is enough. If you really want something to happen in your life, you need to take that risk. And I started taking minimal risk, not at the cost of harming myself. And when you start taking risks, three core values that helped me to transition was contribution is very important. So if I am, for instance, right now, I feel that I'll gain a lot from you, Rakesh, when you're asking me these questions. And I feel little way I'm also contributing. So that helped me in my transition, that, hey, Nancy, if you're contributing, you're doing well. And second C was connection. I love my own company, but I thrive on connection. And that's why I'm in the profession I am. I meet strangers almost every day. And to build that connection, right? And they have this sword or power in their hand, it's called feedback form. So my career is just decided every day. Right? It's there. And third C, that is collaboration. Wow. And I think that's what helped me in really transitioning, or if I could say that the journey of transforming and unleashing your full potential was really to look within and say, Nancy, let's go to the balcony and see, as a friend, if you could help yourself. And that's what helped me.
Wow, great. That's great. And I really like this 3C concept, that contribution, connection, and collaboration.
Right.
And I could totally relate to the balcony example. And I think I should more often go to my balcony.
Please do.
And I really love that also. Means recently, from last, I think 2022, I also started becoming less harsh on myself, and that has really helping me. Means we are always harsh to everyone, and for us, for self, we are very harsh. Means we are judging ourselves at every step, every thought, every action. So whenever I decided that let go and let's accept it, and the thing started to move up.
Absolutely. Very, very
Great. So let's take this journey ahead, and let's talk about the perfect you. What is this brand, and how you build it, and how it is growing? Yeah.
To build any brand, you cannot do it alone. So for me also, the journey has been no different. And I believe that it took two people to bring one person. So when somebody says that I'm self-made as a businessman, and I'm like, hey, buddy, you are not self-made. It took two people to bring you in this world. So nobody's made. What they're really meaning is that, of course, they did the work. So if
Yes.
you're talking in that sense, yes, everybody is self-made in that sense because you have to do your own work, right? We have to do our own push-ups. When you go to the gym also, there is an instructor who'll say, come on, 5 more. And you're like, no, but you have to do those 5 more push-ups. He can only guide you or she can only guide. So for my brand also, I was very clear from the very beginning that I would need people who would guide me to take step ahead. I wanted to fail faster. I wanted to also learn from people's failure. Most of the time, again, it's a conditioning that you have to experience everything. You have to experience, of course, you have to experience everything. But if somebody is telling you don't go near the fire and you say, no, I'll touch the fire and let me allow and get burnt. I mean, that's not sensible. So we can learn from industry experts who have done it. Of course, your journey would be different. So for me, building a brand was that your network is your net worth. I heard it somewhere and I can't believe that. So I started meeting people and I also had this clarity when I sat with myself, who are the people whom I'm not going to work with?
Okay.
And no harsh feelings towards them. But I was very clear they are not going to empower. Because if you're every day meeting somebody who doesn't make you feel good about yourself. Of course, the environment, I'm not saying that they say something and you say, oh, I'm feeling because of you. But I'm just saying that if somebody is constantly nudging you, everybody has a threshold. And that's what Perfect You was about. So I started writing cold emails. I was unabashedly shameless.
Oh, wow. This is a good one.
Yeah. And second was that I started asking people what works in the industry. I didn't ask the question, what do you do? I started asking questions which will give me an answer which was useful for me. I would go to a meeting and figure out who are the key stakeholders who can help me. For instance, if I am meeting somebody who's a functional nutritionist, of course I'll say hello, I'll be courteous, I'll be kind as a human being. But the synergy might not happen in terms of the career that I have. So I was cautious because time is money. And of course, I failed and I had fallen flat on my face in spite of these strategies. And of course, then you fine tune. So I made mistakes. And I'm now making new mistakes. I'm not repeating those old mistakes. And I think that's how every day you build it. And I think it's a journey. It's not a destination. Perfect You is growing. And I wish that it continues to grow with all the partners who are supporting in this journey, including you, Rakesh. And I think that's what is fulfilling, that I know that every day I have to grow as a person. And as long as I'm doing that, I'll grow and the company will also grow.
Wow, that's great. That's great. It's so heartwarming to hear that you learned from the failures and you made a lot of strategy, but still failed and then grown and all those, the journey. So it's so amazing to hear that in the 10 years you have built this brand and you are traveling all over pan India to give your trainings. And so let's talk about from the last 20 years, your career, corporate career, and then the entrepreneurship journey. Top 2-3 highs of last 20 years.
I would talk about my failure as the top number one high. That time it appeared as the lowest point in my life. But I remember I did a project with a group of people. And I thought I'm being an effective leader. I'm being the best leader because they also got famous because of that idea. Famous would be a wrong word, but they also got credit for what we did. But the way I showed up when I look back now could have been different. And of course, everybody started criticizing me behind my back. And of course, you get to know. And of course, they were like, no, we love your leadership. But I could get the sense that they were not with me when they were present with me. They were acting like they were doing open eye meditation. They were sitting with me, but they were somewhere else. Right? And I realized, this open eye meditation has to stop. What can I do to show up? And now I'm proud to tell you this, that all of them are in good connection with me. So I think that was the biggest high. When you look into the mirror and own up to your mistake, I think that was the biggest high. Now I look at the way I interact with people very differently because I think at that point I was being selfish about how this entire project would pan out. And of course, I was very mindful, but I'm just saying if I look at the bigger picture, I could have been more mindful. Not that I was putting people down, no, but I was looking at it from my eyes only. I was not looking at other people's perspective also, how they saw it. So I was clear. I didn't put anybody down. But of course, I didn't look at the project from their eyes as well. That's something that was the biggest high. So when I'm now working with people, I just take a moment and ask my favorite question, tell me more. So what am I missing, right? So I do that. And second high in my career would be when my company started growing. And because earlier when people would look at me, they'll be like, oh, you need to have literally white hair. I mean, they would not say white hair, but they meant experience. So there was a point where I was thinking, should I stop coloring my hair and wait for white to show up if that means that I'm more experienced? But when you start seeing that people are showing up and believing in you, I think that's the biggest high, because I believed in myself all this while, but when it started converting into other people also believing in me, that was the biggest high in my career.
Wow.
And third is book, being quite a journey. I've been meaning to write it since a while.
Okay.
And now that it's out in the market and people like you who's given so much of support and love to the book, I think these are the three areas which has given me biggest high in my life.
Wow, that's amazing journey, and you totally summarized it. But before I forget, let me ask that question, because you were getting the sign that people are not positive about your personality and leadership, and still they are now your good friends and then circle. So, means how you converted that, and it is very difficult to accept the people who are not accepting you as a leader or leadership, or they are not accepting means they are not understanding, and you are not understanding them, but still you are in friend with them, because in our world we take rejection very deep into our hearts. I call it rejection only, or we take no very deep into our hearts. So how we can process, and my listener can process these things?
Wow, I love this question. And I think one transformation that happened for me, Rakesh, was when I started seeing rejection as no to my idea or no to my request, not no to Nancy Katyal. So when they were disagreeing with me, and many people told me that, Nancy, see, we love you as a person. That's why we are sitting with you, even if we are doing open eye meditation. We love your company. But it's just that we are not in alignment with the way you're looking at the bigger vision of this project. That is one. And there could be places where people don't like you also. There could be that moment also. But we are responsible for not attaching it to a personal identity. I can tell you, when I was submitting my proposal for the book, and first time author's journey could be quite a journey, right? And there would be people who say that, oh, why should we trust you? Not literally, but diplomatically, they're saying exactly these things that, okay, and how many sessions do you do in a month? So, you feel that, okay, they're shifting away from the book content, but they really want to see your credibility. So rather than seeing it as a question on my identity, I understood that this person also is responsible for his or her job. What is the value that this person is living? And I think for me, when values is something that is not understood, Rakesh, by many people. We just loosely say self-respect is very important for me, honesty is very important for me. But are we living those values, or are they my hobbies? That's a difference that many people understand. And I think to answer your question about rejection and how I'm still friends with those people, I feel we all have this inner GPS in us, which tells us whether we did treat somebody in a right manner or not. So as I told you that I have never been ruthless towards people. When I talk about my leadership, it's just that I was so attached to my idea that I was only looking at it from my perspective. So when they also reflected, so there was a gap of 6 to 7 months when there was a lull period. We were not talking. There was a Cold War going on. And they also reflected. Because I didn't mean any damage to them. It's just that I was not thinking from their perspective. I was so attached to my idea. Again, going to the balcony tells you that, hey, look at it from the third person perspective. Look at it objectively, being practical about the facts. And when they also understood that, hey, she didn't demean us. It's just that that time, but she's open enough to reach out. So I did reach out to some, and some actually realized that the way they treated me was not right. And that's how everybody, and you give people space to reflect. Most of us, and I think the worst invention of humankind is WhatsApp. Relationships are made on WhatsApp and they are broken on WhatsApp. So I believe communication is the key. I kept that thread open, and everybody has that inner GPS They say that the biggest judiciary is inside, it's not outside. And that helps you. So stop seeing rejection as no to you as a person. It's just no to your idea or solution. It is a game changer. At least it's how I take it, because in my career, every single day I receive rejection. So when you're training, there will be, let's say, 20 people. One person may not like you. Not everybody would like you. And you can see it. You are also a coach. You can just see it through the people that, hey, buddy, you are not liking me. Right? And then you say that it's okay. That's that person's perspective. Maybe there's something that they are projecting and the healing has to happen for them. I don't have to take ownership for everything that is happening for somebody. I can be that co-facilitator or co-pilot in the journey, but I don't have to own their hurt. As there's a saying that if people don't heal what hurt them, they will bleed on people who didn't cut them. So yeah, I mean, that's what Rakesh asked me.
Great. So I'm just loving this conversation and getting so much value and so much of very minute details about leadership and means this rejection thing. Means I was also dealing with this rejection from a lot of time, from childhood, maybe. And then recently, last year, I made a podcast on rejection, and then it started to turn up. So thank you for this amazing conversation. And so let's move on and discuss about what is your book and commit to yourself. Why this title and what is there in the book? Yeah.
You might have noticed, Rakesh, that I have this thing about shairi. I just love, because there's certain things that sound very meaningful in 2 or 3 lines also. So I'll tell you why commit yourself in a shairi, and it goes like this. कोई आईना हो जो मुझको मुझसे मिला सके, कोई आईना हो जो मुझको मुझसे मिला सके, मेरा अपने आप से सामना नहीं हो रहा. What this means is that commit to yourself is that mirror for everyone who is telling you or nudging you very lovingly to say, hey, my dear friend, you've been taking your life in a way which you are also not happy with. You want to lead a fulfilling life. There are certain mental models that are not serving you to lead your life to your full potential. And there are relationships that needs some mending. And then there are certain areas in our life that requires us to show up with courage. And there are certain areas where we need to make fear our friend. And that's why commit to yourself is saying that if you are finding it difficult to look into the mirror, commit to yourself is that mirror which will tell you in a very loving way to go inside yourself and take charge of your life, because there are certain patterns, there are certain things that are not serving us. And I've also spoken about this mental model called locus of control. So this shows that there are 2 kinds of locus of control. So one is internal locus of control and external locus of control. And I realized that initial part of my career, if something wrong would happen to me, there was an immediate sense of blaming the environment by saying, if the government changes the policy, if I had more money, if I knew people who are very influential, then my career would have taken a leap of faith or would have taken to another level. So it was external locus of control. I was always relying on the environment to fulfill what I wanted from my life, until I understood that, hey, there are certain things which are beyond my control. But what is definitely in my control is internal locus of control. I have to take the action, right? So there is a difference between knowledge and action gap, right? That many people know we need to exercise, that's knowledge. Many people know we need to change our mindset, that's knowledge. Many people listen to the podcast at 2x speed and they're thinking that they're consuming content, but they're not absorbing content, they're consuming it. Okay. And I think that's where internal locus of control tells you that, hey, you can change certain aspects, only you can do it. And once we do that, I think that's where you take charge of life. So in commit to yourself, anyone, whether you're a working professional who is finding it hard to go up to the boss and ask for that raise, or if you're someone who's a homemaker who wants to take that leap of faith to start something of your own, or you're someone who's tired of being your irresponsible self, or you've become comfortable being your irresponsible self. So commit to yourself is a warm invitation to say, hey, buddy, let's take charge of our life and show up fully. You have a light within you and the world needs that gift. and let's spread that gift all around. And that's what commit to yourself is.
Wow, such an amazing concept you have summarized and articulated in a beautiful manner. Because commit to yourself means what I when I just first read this title, I was very curious that yes, and it was the book title was saying myself that yes, you have to commit yourself.
Absolutely. And Nagesh, many people would say, I'm very committed at my job. I'm very committed in my romantic relationship. I'm very committed to my parents. And when you ask them, are you committed to yourself? They'll be like, yeah, I will. 1st January, I will start taking charge of my life. But I'm very committed to everything outside of myself. And I think committing to yourself in no way means that you will not be committed to responsibilities outside of you. But only when I take charge of myself, I'll be in a better position to show up for others. Because mostly we are committed to others half-heartedly at times. I'm not saying most of half-heartedly. And then we would say, see, I'm doing that for you, but you are not doing that for me. You may not voice it out, but there is an internal voice. So when we fill our bucket full with love,
Yes.
we will be at a capacity to show love to others as well.
Yes, got it. And what is that break free in the name?
So it's like so many of us are prisoners in the cage that we have only created for our own self. And we are thinking the key of that cage is somewhere outside. So I'm saying break free. You can really take charge of your life and break free, take freedom, which is really required in our life.
Wow, such an amazing conversation we are having. And so where we can find this book, Commit to Yourself? Is it available Amazon, Flipkart, and leading bookstores?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that, Rakesh. So it's available on Amazon, Flipkart, and actually all the leading stores in NCR, in Maharashtra also, and in other locations you will soon have that book as well.
Great. So all the best from my side and for the book. And so I got my copy yesterday only, and I'll be reading you and giving you feedback.
Please.
And so we are at the end of our podcast, and this one question which I'm very curious to ask you that how you are managing your smile and this energy.
I think right now you are also smiling, so maybe I'm capturing that. I believe a lot in love, Rakesh, in general, and it need not be only the way love is looked at. I believe that there's so much of love that we have within us, and there's so much of warmth that we can offer to people. And I told you I thrive on connection, and that's what is my being. That I feel that everyone, each one of us, and I am taking so much of learning from your questions and the way you are reflecting, Rakesh. So I think what I feel is that I'm high on life without an external substance.
Wow.
And I think just the fact that, Rakesh, just these conversations give me a kick in life. And that tells me that if I show up, if I am vulnerable enough, if I own up to who I am, the other person will also have that courage to show up as who they are. Because most of us, not during COVID times, we put this mask. Actually, most of us are putting the mask way before COVID.
Yes.
So I'm just telling people that, hey, because there is this thing that leadership means you have to be serious. And I know when I do leadership training, Rakesh, some HR person would tell me that, hey, Nancy, so these are serious people. And so I said, so does that mean that I don't have to smile? So just imagine I say, hey, welcome everyone. And when I talk to leaders, they're like, we are humans. Why is everybody's taking us so seriously? And I think that's again certain mental models, certain concepts that are ingrained in even training industry that, oh, leadership training means serious business. There is an inner child. There is a person who's taking such strict decisions every day, difficult decisions every day, right? So they also want somebody to say that, hey, lighten yourself up. And I think that's what I want to do when I meet somebody. I want them to show up, take those masks. It's almost like, Rakesh, when we put makeup, at least women put makeup. So what happens is that if I have to remove this, so I'll take 1 layer out, 2 layer out, depends on how much makeup you put, right? To have a clean face, especially at night. They say don't sleep with makeup. Many of us are sleeping, and I'm saying it as a metaphor, irrespective of the gender, with our toxic thoughts. And we sleep with that. We don't remove that layer to say, I'll sleep peacefully. So my intention of showing up is that if I can show up, even if I'm doing a training and I feel something is funny, can Nancy smile so that the other person also can show up fully? Because many of us are not self-aware. We are she aware that she said or he said, this is the perfect way of leading life. But we're not self-aware. So I want people to show up as who they are. Laugh when they want to. Don't laugh at someone, but laugh at life, at themselves. And I think that gives me energy because I believe love is at the core of who we are. And if we can show up as who we are, it gives the courage to the other person also. Because, most of us, when we meet people for the first time, we show our best self. And then we build connection. And then the other side shows up. And the person said, we didn't sign up for this because I didn't show you that. If you meet me in person, my friends would also say, I am like this. And I don't know any other way to be like this. So if I'm talking, I would use a lot of gestures. I'll smile. I want the other person to also feel that it's okay. It's unconditionally okay to be yourself.
Be yourself. Wow. Such an amazing. And I'm just enjoying this conversation. I don't want to stop it here.
Likewise.
So this is my last question, Nancy. And I'll just ask the three habits or ritual which helped you during your entrepreneur journey, corporate journey, so that my listener will benefit and imbibe some of them. Yeah.
Sure.
Habits or rituals. Yeah.
So I would say whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working at any job, you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. What does that mean is that most of us sometimes think whether we are working in a job, we have an employee mindset that by 7th or by 3rd, I'll get my salary. So I'm only responsible for that. And now the world is changing. Earlier leadership was that you were also responsible for getting the work done. And you still are. But you also want people to be self-accountable, to self-lead. So anyone who's working at a job or is a homemaker or is an entrepreneur, I think we should learn to be self-accountable. Not every time there'll be a gym trainer or somebody else who'll make you accountable. One is that if I have committed to something, वो कहते हैं ना एक बार commitment कर दी तो फिर मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनती. So that. So one is that.
Salman Bhai. Yeah.
Salman Bhai, yes. So that is one. And second is consistency. People believe you when you show up every day. You cannot tell everyone to show up and you are missing in action. I think that's something that when you show up, people start to build trust on you. That, hey, she's showing up every day. We can trust her. She will show up if we give her a task, he or she. And third thing is to build the muscle of facing no. You have to build that muscle because once you learn to accept no, you will like to see how do you create the shift from hearing no to converting it into a yes. So unless until it's like once you have experienced lightness, only then you can experience darkness, right? Or light. When you've experienced light, then only you can experience darkness. These are the three things that keep me going, that when I hear a no from someone, I said, okay, who's the next person I can ask? It's okay, buddy. You don't want to help me? I'll figure someone else out who can help me. And I think that's how we need to take our life in charge. We sometimes are too serious about what others are saying. And I'll narrate a short story, Rakesh, which changed the perspective. So I have a house helper and I told her one day to come a little early. And she said, yes, Didi, I'll come early. And so I was waiting. It was 11 o'clock in the morning and I was waiting. She turned up at 12:30. And immediately, I'm also a human being. Immediately, I got in touch like, oh my God, I'm getting irritated. And I said, you said 11 o'clock if shown up. She said, sorry, Didi. And she started working. I said, okay, today is okay. Can you show up tomorrow at 11 at least? Because she said, yes. Again, the second day, she showed up at 12:30. And I said, this is not done. What is happening? You are committing to something, you should commit. And she said, yes. And I asked her. And then in that moment, I said, there's something that she's not telling. And I asked her and she said, actually, my kid is in hospital and he's on saline. And we don't have the funds to take care of the medical expenses. And I have to show up, but I'm also worried about who will take care of my son. And I think that's what we need to understand, that many of us feel that we know what's going on. If somebody is not responding to your message, immediately say block, unfriend. And I think that changed my perspective about life, that we don't know what is going on in somebody's life. So as I told earlier also, tell me more, or is one question that changed the way I look at life. We can't really know what is going on.
Wow, that's amazing. And so by this tell me more, I remembered my mentor coach. She's Jaya Bhateja in Gurgaon. So he always asks, tell me more, tell me more. So Nancy, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and you just share if someone, my listener, want to talk to you, want to connect with you, what is the best way to contact you or reach out to you?
Thank you. And for branding, it's so important. So I'll be unabashedly talking about how they can reach out to me. So first is, I had a pleasure interacting with you, Rakesh. It was so fulfilling to talk to you and hear your perspective about life. And those of you who are listening and you found value in this, you can reach out to us, both Rakesh and Nancy, on LinkedIn. And my name is Nancy Katyal. So by that name, you can find me. Same on Facebook and Instagram. And yes, please drop in a text. If I'm in a training, I'll take some time, but I generally do respond to text messages.
Wow. Thank you, Nancy, for being on the show. I'm talking to you for the first time on a Zoom or in a person also, but it didn't feel like we are talking for the first time. And you were so vulnerable, so authentic, and so open in sharing your stories and learning. So I'm totally grateful for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm truly grateful as well. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Clarity with Rakesh. Please subscribe or follow this podcast on your preferred platform so that you don't miss any important episodes. Have clarity, listen clarity, and let's talk clarity. Let's talk clarity.